Incredible rescue. Hidden firepower reveals hope for 12 SEALs cornered in the kill zone. Dark clouds rolled over the Texas plains, swirling ominously as if the heavens themselves were preparing for war. Sarah, a single mother with the heart of a soldier, felt the shift in the air. Crawling out of bed before the sun kissed the horizon, she wrapped her arms around her two bright-eyed children, Josh and Emily. Sturdy boots on, she was ready to face another day of juggling two jobs and guiding them through the hardships of life. But today felt different. A storm was brewing, and it wasn't just the weather. The sound of sirens pierced through the town, a sharp note of panic that set Sarah's heart racing. She pulled Josh and Emily close, the kids' innocent questions drawing a tight knot in her chest. "Mom, what is happening?" Josh's voice trembled. Her lips curled into a smile, despite the heavy weight on her shoulders. "Just a little rain, guys. We're gonna be okay." But as the minutes passed, fear gnawed at her spirit while outside. Neighbors rushed to secure their homes, the tight-knit community she loved erupting into chaos. As the floodwaters surged dangerously close, Sarah's thoughts turned to Mike, her childhood friend and a fellow Army veteran. He was out there, somewhere in this mess, steering 12 SEALs through the treacherous landscape for a covert mission. Clenching her jaw, she swallowed the lump in her throat. Her loyalty to him clashed with her aching worry for her children. The storm broke, sheets of rain hammered against the ground, and within minutes, the river transformed into a roaring beast, threatening to swallow their lives whole. Tension gripped the air like a vice, pushing past civility and revealing underlying resentments among neighbors. In the face of rising waters, Sarah's heart thudded in panic, torn between her children's safety and her unwavering loyalty to Mike. Beneath the flood of emotions, Sarah's instincts ignited a fire within her. The retired firefighter across the street rushed by with a boat, followed by the mechanic who had a map of back roads etched into his mind. The nurse next door, fists clenched in determination, was ready to provide medical assistance if needed. She focused on the faces around her. Fear turned to resolution, and they began to form an alliance, united by a common purpose. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now, let's continue. With the water rising, Sarah tapped into the courage she fought for while serving her country. No longer just a single mother, she was a leader. She gathered the neighbors, her voice steady, giving them direction to remove furniture and valuables. They unearthed a long-forgotten connection to military resources, a former armory in town. "We can rally," she shouted, hope lifting her soul. The floodwaters might take her community, but their spirits were untouchable. They organized a daring plan to rescue Mike and the SEALs. Thunder roared overhead, and with it, the chilling realization sunken time was running out. Families would be shattered if they weren't careful. Standing at the precipice of panic and determination, Sarah's heart raced. Would she abandon her children's safety for a chance to save a friend? Absorbing the looks on her neighbors' faces, it all came down to a single question. What does it mean to fight for family when the storm is closing in? Lightning flickered through the sky, illuminating the faces of Sarah's neighbors, each one a mirror of her own resolve. The water was now knee-deep on their street, swirling with debris that masked dangers lurking below. "We can't wait any longer," a neighbor shouted, his voice barely breaking through the cacophony of rain and fear. Taking a deep breath, Sarah waved her hands to grab everyone's attention. "Listen up. We can't just sit here. If we want to have any chance of finding Mike and the SEALs, we need to work together, stay focused." The urgency in her voice sent a ripple of energy through the group, snapping them out of their dazed state. "Maybe I can get my boat," the retired firefighter, Jim, called out, hope igniting in his eyes too. "I know those back channels. We can get close enough to the river without being swept away." "3 of us will go," Sarah decided, adrenaline pulsing through her veins. "We'll take Jim and 3 others to form a crew. The rest of you need to stay here. Keep the kids safe. If something happens, keep an eye out." Emily clutched Sarah's arm, her small fingers trembling. Mom, I don't want you to go. What if something happens? Kneeling down, Sarah cupped her daughter's face, forcing herself to keep her voice calm. I promise I'll come back. I need you to be brave, Em. Just like you were at school. You can do this. Josh looked at her, uncertainty etched across his features. Can I go, Mom? No, baby. I need you to protect Emily and your friends. The weight of her words settled heavily in the air between them, their bond physically palpable as she straightened up. She could feel her heart pounding in her chest, each beat echoing her fear and determination. With a nod, she turned back to the group, who were already starting to gather supplies. Okay, let's grab life jackets, flashlights, whatever else we can use. Time is not our friend. With efficient motion, they loaded up Jim's boat, her mind racing with possible outcomes. Each worrying thought added to her resolve. This was about more than Mike, it was about her home, her family, their future. The rain continued to hammer down, but their shared purpose forged a bond stronger than the storm. Just as they launched the boat into the murky waters, a deafening crash of thunder roared above them. But it couldn't drown out Sarah's rising resolve. They had embarked, headed into the unknown, driven by hope and a sense of duty. As the boat skimmed the surface, she looked over her shoulder at the dimming lights of her neighborhood. It felt surreal to be leaving it behind, perhaps forever. Hold steady, Jim called as he navigated through the obstacles, the water rushing high against the hull. Each bump set her heart aflame, but her determination would not waver. They needed to find Mike and those men before it was too late. Moments turned into minutes, every stroke of the paddles moving them further from safety and deeper into chaos. Suddenly, a cry pierced the air, wrenching her focus. Look, Emily shouted, pointing straight ahead. Out in the distance was a glimpse of something moving against the backdrop of rain. Was it a figure? Her heart leaped in her chest, a wild mix of hope and fear swirling inside her. What if it's Mike? But as they drew closer, the waters began to churn even more violently, swallowing everything whole. Was it friend or foe? The line between help and danger blurred in a heartbeat. With rage, nature roared, challenging their quest. This was a test they had to face together. Just as they drew near enough to see clearly, the storm howled, and Sarah's thoughts darkened. Reality settled like a weight in her gut. One question echoing through her mind: would they find hope or face disaster head-on? The boat rocked violently as they fought against the swell of the water. Sarah gripped the edge tightly, her knuckles turning white. Her heart raced, echoing the chaos all around. Whatever was moving in the distance was getting closer, but the thrashing waves made it hard to distinguish. Jim, can you steer us around that debris? She shouted over the roar of the wind. The retired firefighter nodded, his jaw set with determination as he maneuvered the boat with skill. The water seemed alive, thrashing against the hull, as if it wanted to push them back to where they came from. Emily clutched Sarah's arm again, fear evident in her wide brown eyes. What if it's not him, Mom? What if it's something else? Sarah took a deep breath, forcing calmness into her voice. We have to believe it's him. Mike is out there. I can feel it. She glanced at the shadows looming in the distance, uncertainty gnawing at her stomach. Just then, a flicker of light caught her eye, a flashlight beam darting back and forth like a signal in the dark. There, Sarah cried out, her heart racing. Do you see it? We have to go? Jim pushed the boat toward the glimmering light, navigating through the flotsam of the storm. Each surge forward felt like a struggle against the very forces of nature trying to keep them from their goal. But they pressed on, every moment more desperate than the last. As they drew nearer, shadows began to take shape. They could make out figures standing on an overturned boat, shouting and waving their arms in desperation. It's them, Emily screamed, joy breaking through her fear. But just as hope surged within them, darkness swept over the scene. The winds howled, and in that moment, the water beneath them shifted abruptly, sending their small vessel careening sideways. Sarah scrambled to regain her balance, feeling the boat tilt alarmingly. Hold on, Jim shouted, as he fought the steering wheel, trying to get them back on course. The shouting figures grew clearer against the rain, revealing the faces of men in uniforms. The sight sent a rush of relief through Sarah. Mike was there. But in the same instant, the realization hit her. The SEALs weren't just stranded, they were under fire. She could make out the distant sound of gunshots above the sound of the storm, each crack sending a chill down her spine. "Jim, we need to get them on board, fast," Sarah yelled, urgency surging through her veins. The retired firefighter grunted in agreement. "We'll make it happen. Just get ready to grab them when we get close." As they drew near, the reality of their situation hit like a punch. The SEALs were pinned down, scrambling to find cover as bullets ricocheted across the water. And just like that, it wasn't just a rescue mission, it was a fight for survival. With every ounce of strength and courage, Sarah's heart raced. She knew there wasn't time to hesitate. "We can do this together," she said, looking at the faces of her crew for support. They all nodded resolutely, eyes locked on their gold that moment. Determination brightened the storm's gloom. They would fight through hell to bring Mike and his men home, or be swept away trying. The stakes had never been higher. They were in it now for more than just survival. Just as they closed in, a blinding flash momentarily shattered the darkness. One last bolt of lightning struck nearby, illuminating the area. Everything froze for a heartbeat. Then, the atmosphere shifted. With a gasp, Sarah realized the worst. The danger wasn't just from the water or the storm, it was here, within reach. But would they find their way through, or would their efforts plunge them further into the heart of chaos? The bright flash of lightning faded quickly, leaving an eerie darkness in its wake. As the thunder rumbled overhead, Sarah felt the gravity of their situation settle around her like a heavy cloak. The wind screamed as if it were protesting their intentions, but there was no choice left. She had to push forward. "Get ready to grab them," Jim shouted, eyes narrowing against the sideways rain. They were almost on top of the overturned boat now, and as the next wave surged up, crashing over the hull, a bullet zipped past, splashing water dangerously close. A cry rang out from the SEALs as one of them ducked, barely avoiding the spray. "Hold steady," Sarah yelled, her heart in her throat. She leaned over the side of the boat, desperate to spot Mike among the chaos. Focusing through the bucketing rain, she saw him, a dark figure moving with purpose. He was directing the others, trying to hold off the fire that surrounded them. "Mike!" she screamed, her voice nearly lost in the tempest. He turned, his eyes wide with shock and recognition. Relief washed over Sarah, despite the perilous situation. "What the hell are you doing here?" he shouted back, fists clenched. "We're here to get you out. Just hold on." The boat rocked dangerously, and Sarah felt a surge of fear at the uncertainty of their rescue. They needed to get closer, but the gunfire was relentless. More bullets thudded against the hull, and she could see one of the SEALs go down, a grim testament to just how dire their odds really were. "Get them alongside," Jim barked, focused and unwavering, steering the boat skillfully through the waves. "On it," Sarah replied, and she signaled to Emily to prepare. They needed to lift the men aboard quickly, not just for them, but for their own survival as well. As they pulled alongside the capsized craft, Mike moved toward the edge, shouting commands to his men. "Get to that boat. We can't hold them off forever." One by one, the SEALs jumped into the churning water, their training kicking in. Sarah readied herself, eyes fixed on Mike, who was now shouting for a final push to abandon their post. "Now, grab him." With trembling hands, Sarah reached out, camouflaged by the rain and waves. She felt something strong close her fingers around hers, a warm, solid grip. "Got you," Sarah exclaimed, pulling with all her strength. Just when it felt like they might pull him aboard, a deafening explosion shook the air. The sound rippled through the water, and Sarah screamed, "Jim, move us back." They couldn't stay. The scene had shifted into chaos. Mike was still in the water, reaching back for the others, his body taut with urgency. Sarah held her breath as Jim gunned the throttle, pulling them away from the danger while the darkness seemed to swallow everything whole. Emily gasped beside her, tears brimming in her eyes. "What about them? We're not leaving without them," Sarah declared. But as they retreated, she felt the weight of fate pressing down on her. They would need that chance, the split second of opportunity where they could risk it all. And as her heart raced in turmoil, another flash of lightning illuminated the darkness, revealing the grim reality ahead. The storm wasn't just a metaphor for the danger. It was a living creature trying to tear them apart. But then, through the chaos, came the faintest sound, a radio crackling with desperate voices. The SEALs could call for backup, and Sarah knew they had to get back. "We need to regroup," she yelled, determination igniting her spirit. Would they be able to make an incredible rescue amidst such chaos? The decision loomed large over them. Could they do it again? Would they risk everything for one last chance? Rain lashed against the boat as it rocked dangerously, the storm whipping up waves that crashed like angry fists against the hull. Sarah's heart raced. They had already risked so much, but leaving without Mike and his team just wasn't an option. The thought of them trapped, out there in the chaos, sent a chill down her spine. "Jim, we can't just sit here," she shouted over the roar of the wind. "They're counting on us." "I know," he yelled back, gripping the wheel with fierce intensity. "But we need a plan." Emily peered anxiously over the edge, her hands shaking. "What if they can't hold out much longer? The radio, do you think they can call for help?" "It's worth trying," Sarah said, her voice steadier than she felt. "Every second counts." Jim nodded, determination hardening his features. "Okay, I'll get us closer. Sarah, you'll have to be quick. We can't be a sitting duck. Nobody is going to sit." "Let me go?" Sarah's words tumbled out before she could filter them. She wouldn't wait around. She felt it in her bones. Something had shifted. They had to act. As Jim navigated through the waves and rain, Sarah prepared herself mentally. She wasn't just going for Mike this time. She was going for all of them. Each seal they could save could mean one less family shattered by loss. With a sudden tilt of the boat, they floored it toward the shadowy outlines of the capsized vessel. The air thickened with tension. What if Mike and his team couldn't make it back? The sea itself felt like an enemy, taunting them. As they drew closer, the frantic radio crackled back to life. "This is Bravo team. We're pinned down. Need extraction immediately." "Mike," Sarah shouted, leaning over the edge again, calling out into the tumult. "We're back. We're coming for you." At that moment, she saw him, standing at the edge of the boat still. The sight filled her with a mix of dread and resolve. His face twisted in pain, but his eyes held on as something hope, perhaps, and a flame of determination she couldn't ignore. "They can't hold much longer," Mike screamed, voice strained. "Get them to jump." His words hammered home the urgency of their situation. "Get ready, Emily," Sarah yelled, adrenaline surging. Emily braced herself, nodding silently as she gripped the rope, eyes wide with fear and ferocity as bullets whizzed overhead again. Sarah could hear Jim cursing under his breath. "We've got this. Just focus." "Hold on, Mike," Sarah called, scanning the water for the seals who were still trapped. "We'll be ready to catch them." And just like that, the first figure broke through the surface. A seal streamed through the torrents like a torpedo. Sarah reached out, hands steady despite the chaos. The man's grasp connected with the lifeline she threw, and she felt the spark of triumph dance through her veins. "One down, more to go," she shouted, adrenaline fueling her hope. The relentless gunfire continued. Bullet after bullet punched into the waves around them, but the rescue operation was underway. Huddled together, Sarah and Emily prepared to help the next seal, pulling him close with fierce determination. "Keep coming," Mike urged his men, water spraying as they leapt back into the fray. "We'll get you out. Just hold on." Lightning flashed again, illuminating the rescue scene, while another seal plummeted into the churning water, determination in every swim stroke as he aimed for the boat. Holding on to that moment of connection, Sarah realized they weren't just fighting against nature or enemies, they were fighting for hope, for each other, for every precious life that mattered. But then, in the distance, she caught sight of another wave rising ominously high, and her heart dropped. The storm was not done. "Jim, hold steady," she shouted, but fear settled into a knot in her stomach. Would they manage to get everyone aboard before the storm overwhelmed them? The rescue was just beginning, but could they truly save them all before time ran out? The roar of the storm continued to drown out every thought, but Sarah's focus narrowed on the task at hand. She could see the next seal surfacing, a strong swimmer fighting against the tide. They needed to move faster. "Jim, another one's coming," she shouted, adrenaline pulsing through her veins. "Ready or not, we got to get him now," Jim replied, his voice steady but urgency threading through. He maneuvered the boat closer, where the waves surged like hungry beasts, eager to swallow anyone daring enough to cross their path. "Come on, just a little closer," Sarah yelled, her heart racing as she reached for the rope. She could feel the energy vibrating in her fingertips, a lifeline waiting to be used. The seal reached out as he breached the surface, eyes wild but focused. With a swift motion, Sarah threw the rope in his direction. Grab it. He grasped it with both hands, pulling himself closer. I'm coming. Don't let go. They tugged him aboard with every ounce of strength they had. As soon as the seal was within reach, Emily threw her arms around him, and they fell back onto the deck, gasping for breath. But there was no time to celebrate. The storm roared even louder, churning the waters into a frenzied whirlpool. Sarah, there's another, Mike called, straining to be heard above the chaos, his eyes scanning the turbulent ocean. I see him. Sarah gritted her teeth, fighting off the panic rising in her chest. Get ready, Emily. They repeated the process, her voice ice-cold with determination against the raging elements. Each rescue felt like squeezing hope out of despair, that they might just snatch these men back from the jaws of death. Come on, buddy, you can do this, Mike shouted to the next seal, watching him swim ever closer. But the ocean had other plans. No sooner had he secured the rope than a monstrous wave crashed, sending the boat reeling sideways. Jim, watch it, Sarah screamed, but Jim's grip on the wheel was firm, muscles taut as he wrestled with the storm. Pouring rain mixed with sea spray made everything slippery, but they had trained their bodies for this moment. They couldn't afford to hesitate. She caught sight of another set of determined eyes surfacing among the debris. Go, 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 she urged, adrenaline fueling her voice as she pointed him out. With fire in her heart, Sarah pushed Emily back toward the edge. But it was a dangerous game. She had to balance her instincts against the swell, trying to pull them under. Just hold on tighter, she shouted, throwing the rope once more as lightning illuminated their surroundings, a brief flash of clarity against the chaos. And for a moment, Sarah thought she glimpsed the determination of all those watching them from the sidelines, those who believed in the spirit that drove them into the storm. But the sea roared louder, claiming Claire's attention like a desperate lover, and suddenly the waves slammed into the boat again, forcing Jim to shout, "Brace yourselves." Sarah gripped the railing with white-knuckled resolve, desperation mixing with something deeper, her belief that they could turn this tide. Have faith, she yelled at Emily, who was frozen in fear. Don't leave them, Emily shouted back, tears mingling with rain on her cheeks. In that moment, amidst the chaos, Sarah caught Mike's fierce gaze, a silent promise that they would fight together, no matter the odds. They were a team, always had been. But before she could breathe out a sigh of relief, something caught her eye, a shadow lurking beneath the surface. The calm before the storm. Danger enveloped them. Look out, she screamed, knowing in her gut that this storm was far from over. She couldn't shake the feeling in the depths of her core. Something darker was coming. Could they handle it? Would they be ready for the next wave? Not just from the ocean, but also from unseen dangers lurking below. The fight was only beginning, and failure was not an option. The boat rocked violently, and Sarah's heart raced as the shadow disappeared, swallowed up by the depths of the dark ocean. A chill crept up her spine. She couldn't shake the feeling that the storm wasn't their only adversary. Another seal, Mike shouted again, breaking her concentration. His eyes danced between the turbulent waters, pinpointing their next target. Let us move, Sarah barked, her voice sharp as she pushed through her anxiety. She grabbed the rope, adrenaline coursing through her veins like fire, her thoughts entirely on the life they were trying to save. The wind howled like a wounded beast, but she refused to be cowed. The next seal, a broad-shouldered man whose body was taut with exhaustion, was fighting valiantly against the waves, and she could feel the weight of every moment pressing down. The team was exhausted. She was exhausted. But they were a family, bound by their purpose. Jim, she yelled, trying to bring the roaring chaos into focus. Get ready for the next wave. On it, Jim called back, his jaw set in determination. The seal swam closer, his movements slow but steady, every stroke a desperate bid for survival. You got this, Sarah shouted, her voice slicing through the cacophony like a beacon of hope. As he reached for the rope, the sky split with another crack of thunder, and Sarah's stomach twisted. She threw the rope, praying he'd catch it. Their eyes met in that heartbeat, an unspoken understanding igniting between them. He gripped the rope, and they pulled him towards safety, their collective hopes tethered like lifelines. Help him. Pull him in, Emily urged, her voice rising above the storm. fueled by raw emotion as they heaved him closer. The waves slammed into the boat, making the task feel monumental, but they would not be derailed as they finally pulled the seal aboard. His breath came in gasps, his body shaking from the cold and exhaustion. Sarah felt a rush of relief wash over her. They were making a difference, one life at a time. But there was no time to linger. "Sarah, another one is struggling," Mike shouted, scanning the water again. "Let us go," she urged. Her heart raced as she pointed towards the figure fighting hard against the relentless tide. They had to keep moving, keep believing. The next wave hit, tossing them to one side. The boat shuddered, and Sarah felt a violent surge of panic grip her. "Hold tight," she screamed as she struggled to keep her feet beneath her. "Everyone all right?" Jim asked urgently, the concern evident in his eyes. "Yeah, just focus on the rescue," she responded, fighting to keep her voice strong. They adjusted their stance, tightening their grip on everything: the boat, each other, the hope they refused to let go. The seal was closer now, but she could sense something lurking beneath the surface, just out of sight. Fear dripped into her resolve like poison, but she swallowed it down. "Come on, buddy," Mike shouted encouragingly as the eyes of the next seal emerged, frantic yet filled with purpose. He was pulling himself forward, desperately, but each stroke was a battle against the water's fierce embrace. Just then, a monstrous wave rose in front of them, crashing towards the boat like a wall of fury. "Brace yourselves," Jim shouted. The impact sent Sarah sprawling, the world spinning around her. For a moment, all she could hear was the roar of the sea. Then, through the chaos, she saw the seal struggling, still submerged, fighting against the undertow. "No," she screamed, wrenching herself up. "Jim, the line. Now." Time slowed as she fought against the tide, her heart pounding in time with the thrumming of the ocean. She couldn't lose him. Not now, not after all they had fought for. "Hold on," she called, locking eyes with the seal, who gave a weak nod, a mix of gratitude and fear reflected in his gaze. But just as they threw the line, a shadow loomed just below the surface. It wasn't just the storm that wanted to claim them. Something else was lurking, more sinister. "Get back," she shouted, recognizing the tension in the water. They had to act fast. The stakes had just risen to a new level of danger. Encouraged by the fight that already fueled them, Sarah thought this wasn't just a storm, it was something worse. "Emily, take the wheel," she commanded, ready to plunge deep into the unknown. Little did she know that what awaited them beneath those waves would change everything they believed about courage and survival. Would they be able to pull their last hope from the churning sea before something or someone pulled them all under? As the shadow lurked ominously beneath the surface, Sarah's instincts screamed at her to prepare for the worst. The air was thick with anticipation, the kind that made her skin prickle with uncertainty. "We need to move now," she shouted, forcing everyone into action, her heart racing as she felt the weight of responsibility settle on her shoulders like an unbearable burden. "Jim, get ready with the line," she barked, her voice steady despite the chaos swirling around them. The man had come too far to lose his life now. The other seals depended on them. "We can't let fear take over," Mike yelled, his expression fierce as he peered into the dark depths, trying to catch a glimpse of what lay below. That shadow seemed to dance in the water, eluding their grasp, stirring dread deep within Sarah's chest. This was a rescue mission. Their mission should be about saving lives, not succumbing to fear. She knew they had to stay united if they were going to make it out alive. "Here he comes," Emily pointed, her voice a mix of fear and resolve. But as another figure emerged, fierce waves crashed against the boat, momentarily wrenching their focus away. "Brace yourselves. Hold on tight," Sarah shouted, gripping the side of the boat, its frame creaking in protest. In an instant, the water erupted as the monstrous wave broke over them, drenching them in icy salt water. Sarah tasted the ocean on her lips, each breath a battle against the elements. But the seal was still fighting, determination etched into every line of his weary face as he meekly broke the surface once more. "Throw it," she urged frantically. Tom was running short. "Catch it," Jim's voice rang out as he launched the line into the swirling depths. The man's hand reflexively grasped it, and a surge of hope flooded Sarah's veins as she felt the connection between them. "We've got you. Hold on," Mike shouted, rallying the team as they started to pull him closer. Every second felt weighted, every inch a monumental achievement against the relentless current. But just as they gained ground, the sea seemed to roar back, eager to punish their efforts. Faster, faster, Emily cried, desperate. They felt the weight of the seal as he inched forward, his body limp. Jordan, another member of their team, jumped in, adrenaline coursing through him. "I've got him," he shouted as he dove into the chaos, pushing against the surge. A sense of camaraderie bound them tighter than the storm surrounding them. But then, just as they thought they had victory, that shadow surged ominously closer, emerging from the depths, a swirl of darkness that sent frigid waves of dread crashing over them. The stark realization hit. It was not just a merciless storm churning beneath the surface, but something larger, a predator lurking, ready to take them by surprise. "Get back!" Sarah screamed, and the crew instinctively pulled away. Panic contorted their faces. She could see it reflected in their eyes as they realized they could be the prey. Suddenly, the sound of splintering wood echoed as the boat bobbed violently. They needed to get this seal aboard and get out. They had no other choice. "We have to fight both the storm and whatever lurks below," she vowed to herself, steeling her resolve. "Keep pulling." The shadows surged again, rising higher, revealing glistening scales in the murky water, an unnatural glimmer that reminded Sarah of danger incarnate. But she couldn't afford to back down. They had come together, forged through fire and chaos. This sea may bring them to their limits, but she refused to let it divide them. "We're not done yet," she yelled, an ember of courage igniting. But then, a chilling sound echoed through the air, a growl that chilled them to the bone, rendering everyone still for a beat. "What was that?" Mike murmured, eyes darting around, fear leaking into his tone. The darkness below stirred once more, and Sarah realized the fight wasn't over. They had to confront whatever hid beneath the waves before they could escape. Could they muster the strength to face this unseen threat, or would the rescue turn into a fight for survival? The heartbeat of the ocean echoed around them, each pulse a reminder of the unseen threat looming just beneath the surface. The growl reverberated again, sending a jolt through Sarah's spine. She locked eyes with her team, each of their expressions revealing the shards of fear trying to claw their way to the surface. "Jim, pull him in now," she barked, urgency fraying the edges of her voice. Those moments felt heavy. Each second ticked away like a countdown, and the dark waves seemed to laugh at their desperation. With a surge of effort, Jim leaned back, pulling with all his might. The seal was almost within reach. Jordan was treading water, buoyed by adrenaline, the determination to save his teammate igniting his every motion. "Just a little longer," he shouted, using his free hand to feel for the line, desperate to close the distance. The ominous shadow below twisted, sending ripples racing across the surface. Sarah's heart pounded. She could almost see it now, a monstrous form ensconced in darkness, glistening scales shifting under the waves. It was as if the ocean itself was alive, aware of their plight and nursing its hunger for chaos. "Get ready, we might need to move," she warned, adrenaline surging through her. The tension between them was almost palpable, a tightrope of hope and fear strung between the necessity of rescue and the lurking terror of the unknown. "Look out," Mike shouted suddenly. The water erupted as something massive broke through, sending a spray of salt and foam hurling toward them. In that moment, the sight threatened to take their breath away. It was unlike anything any of them had seen, slick, armed with vicious teeth, with a sheer size that dwarfed their small boat. "Pull him in now. Move," Sarah yelled, instinctively positioning herself to guard their fragile lifeline from the creature inching ever closer. The Neptune, the brave seal struggling against the tides, needed them. They needed him. The weight of the world seemed to rest on her shoulders as she braced for an impact. But then, something unexpected happened. The creature paused, almost as if it were assessing them. The men around her exchanged wide-eyed glances, disbelief mingling with hope. It was a moment fleeting, electric, full of potential. "Hey, over here," Emily shouted, waving her arms. They could be bait. The idea was crazy, reckless even, but Sarah felt a flicker of resolve. "We can't let it take him. We have to fight. Distract it," she implored, heart racing. They all had to pull together, fused their strengths and their vulnerabilities to ward off this predator. With renewed vigor, Mike and Jim hurled objects at the beast, a flurry of gear, anything to divert its attention. As they did, Jordan caught a glimpse of their teammate, struggling still, the flicker of his will to survive fighting against the watery grasp pulling him down. "Grab the line," he yelled, his own voice filled with urgency. They twisted and turned, throwing everything they could, even as the boat rocked violently under the creature's thrashing tail. The darkness roiled, but they stood firm. The energy surging through them felt alive, a collective heartbeat against the storm. "Hold on, we're coming," Sarah screamed, voice hoarse but filled with unyielding resolve. With a final mighty heave, they pulled the seal closer than ever. Everyone's heart caught in their throats as the shadow loomed larger, but Sarah clung to the hope flickering bright. They had one shot. They would not go down without a fight. But as the shadow surged forth one last time, darker than before, the world around them seemed to shift. Another roar pierced the air, different, more menacing, and Sarah felt a chill grip her heart. "Something's coming," she shouted, bracing for a new onslaught as the water boiled around them. Could they fend off not just one predator, but face a whole pack defending their territory? Would Sarah's resolve stand firm against the rising tide of fear? Time was ticking, and so was their chance for survival. As the dark waves swirled around them, Sarah and her crew braced for the fight of their lives. Lightning crashed again, illuminating the chaotic tableau in stark relief. In that instant, hope flickered brighter than the storm, igniting the determination within each of them. They were closer now, so close to seizing victory over despair. "Jim, keep us steady. We can't lose anyone else," Sarah shouted, heart racing with urgency as frantic thoughts raced through her mind. They had to act, and they had to act now. Through the turbulent water, the next seal, Neptune, surged toward the boat, his face taut with exertion. "Hold on, Neptune," Sarah called, her voice slicing through the chaos like a lifeline. His hand grasped the rope, and she felt a jolt of connection, each pull a shared commitment to fight for not just survival, but for each other. "Get ready," Mike barked, seeing the shadows lurking approach. "We've got company." The sinister growl echoed through the swirling storm, sending chills through Sarah's veins. But there was no room for fear now. They were united, a small army ready to confront anything that stood in their way. "Pull him in," Sarah screamed, urgency infusing every word. One more heave, and the seal was on board. Cheers mingled with oxygen-misted breaths, but there was no celebrating yet. "It's not over," Jim warned, voice tense against the turmoil. "We still need to get the others." As Neptune sprawled on the deck, gasping for air, a collective desperation pushed them to act again. "We'll get you back," Sarah said fiercely, locking eyes with each of her teammates. There was a shared understanding that this moment mattered not just for them, but for everyone waiting back home. "Another wave is coming," Emily shouted, panic creeping into her voice. "Hold on tight," Sarah yelled back. She anchored herself against the boat, ready to face whatever was next. Each second felt monumental, every heartbeat echoing a silent prayer for safety, but then it happened. The dark shadow re-emerged, heavier and angrier than before, thrashing its colossal tail, sending waves crashing against the boat. "Brace yourselves," Jim shouted, gripping the steering wheel with all his might. Neptune steadied himself, determination etched in his features. "We can't let it take us. Keep fighting." Sarah nodded, their unity sparking like a flame against the raging storm. They weren't just fighting for survival. They were fighting for a future, a chance at life beyond the chaos, as families and friends loomed on the horizon. With a fierce resolve, they rallied themselves, their voices rising above the tumult. "Let us move. Together." They hurled whatever they could at the creature, shouts intermingling with the raging storm, until all at once, it hesitated, startled by their defiance. Sarah saw hope glimmering in her crew's eyes. This wasn't just a battle of strength, it was of spirit too. "Now," Mike commanded, voice strong. "Take the line to the next one." Another seal surfaced, the weight of exhaustion flashing across his face. Without a second thought, Jordan lunged forward, determination engraved with every movement. "Grab it," he shouted, tossing the line with accuracy. Just as they yanked the seal closer, that terrible growl reverberated again. The creature lunged, teeth glistening like knives. But before they could recoil in terror, the shadow shifted, thrashing in agony. The ocean roared, its fury reflecting their own. "Get away!" Jim yelled, steering the boat clear just as another wave broke over their vessel. Together, they pulled the seal aboard, and against all odds, the crew united to fight what seemed unconquerable. With every seal they saved, the bonds within them grew deeper. Each life pulled from that tumultuous sea sang out a melody of hope, layered beneath the storm, a testament to their unity. At last, the threat of the dark predator loomed behind them, weakened, uncertainty grappling with ferocity. "It's retreating," Sarah cried, the weight of their resolve pushing back against despair. Hearts raced, but determination burned brighter. "Keep it up," Neptune shouted, the dawning realization that they could win igniting excitement. The creature hesitated. "We can do this together," Sarah shouted, voice strong. "Let us get the last one." Their eyes scanned the dark waters, and then there. Emily pointed again, her childlike hope breaking through the storm. A glimmer amid the chaos, a sign of life. "Go," Mike commanded as Sarah leaned over the edge, throwing the line once more with fierce urgency. With a collective effort, they pulled on the lifeline, finally bringing the last reluctant seal aboard just as the creature fled beneath the waves. Cheers of triumph echoed over the chaos. They had banded together, nearing victory through the stubborn will of the human spirit. As their hearts began to slow, Sarah looked around at her crew, each one nodding, eyes fierce with relief. The storm's wrath began to calm, the world around them slowly transitioning back to a fragile peace. They had made it. No one had been lost. Family, friends, and lives waited beyond the storm. "Together we can conquer anything," she said softly, tears of joy threatening to spill as she hugged Emily close. In that moment, surrounded by those who had fought alongside her, the darkness faded into a distant memory. With every breath, they felt the weight of hope infusing their spirits, a strength unyielding and undeniable. "Now let us get home," Sarah said at last, voice steady and filled with triumph, as they navigated the waters back to the safety of shore. Together, they had fought against chaos and emerged not just survivors but champions against the storm. The bond they forged would be an everlasting reminder of the strength of community and love. This is the moment to act, to show your support for these incredible stories. You need to subscribe now to not miss the next exclusive tales of hope and resilience. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and keep the dream of transformation alive. Comment below with your reactions and feelings about this ending. Let your voice be heard. And please, share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Don't wait, not even one more second, to spread the message of courage and community.